Welcome in, everyone. Mark Dixon here for ESPN and Inside Lacrosse. It is another IL Women's Update. Happy to be joined by Danielle Bernstein, editor of ILWomen.com. And Danielle, the season is underway. Some teams are really flying high. Who are some of the top ball clubs that have really gotten off to a fast start in this new year?
It's been kind of an interesting start to the season, actually. Through the first three media polls this season, we've had three different #1 teams. Syracuse opening at #1, lost in their opening game to Maryland, pretty significantly, 19-11. Just kind of struggled through the midfield and to contain Maryland defensively. And then so Northwestern took over that #1 spot the second week, lost Friday to North Carolina, which was a bit of a shock and early upset to the season. And Maryland has now taken over that #1 spot after beating Duke on Sunday, which was always an exciting game between those two. But Maryland was really able to take control from beginning to end, really share the ball amongst all of their offensive players. Their midfield, I think, is one of the deepest in Division I lacrosse, and Maryland is the new #1 team in the country. Florida has also gotten off to a good start. For the first time, they beat North Carolina, always an early season matchup for them that they've tended to struggle with. And they're off to an undefeated start as well for the first time in their short history.
So three #1s already in this young 2013 season. I think it's safe to say we're going to have a roller coaster of a year, a very exciting year in 2013 in women's lacrosse. Next topic, who have been some of the biggest surprises, or what have been some of the biggest surprise situations that you've encountered so far in 2013?
I think there are a couple. One of them is a little more team-oriented. I've been surprised with Vanderbilt so far this season. Early loss to Jacksonville, which I don't think anybody really saw coming, and then lost this past weekend to Northwestern as well. And I think overall we're realizing how big of an impact Allie Carey had for that team, particularly on draw controls. They've struggled to possess the ball. They've struggled defensively so far. And I think that's something, while maybe we expected a little bit of a drop-off, they've had perhaps more of a drop-off than most people thought coming into this season. Another surprise, I think, are some of the goalie situations you're seeing really across the board. The main one being, I think, in Gainesville, the University of Florida pulled senior goalie Mikey Mahar, first-team All-American in 2012, in their game against Stony Brook on Wednesday as the Seawolves gained some momentum. Something I don't think you see very often. Put in freshman Mary Shawn Wilcox, who was able to really give them a little bit of a spark defensively. And since then, they've played 2 games since then, and Mahar has started, and they've kind of mixed in Mary Shawn a little bit as well. So I think an interesting goalie situation going on there. Same thing kind of with North Carolina. They have used Lauren Maxim and Megan Ward. They've split time. I think they've played them a little bit based on the circumstance and who's hot. So some things like that to watch out for and rotating goalies through, which is something I don't think you see typically very often, especially with these established goaltenders who have been with these teams and have that veteran present in net.
Want to be competing for a national championship, you have to have a good starting goalie, so a little bit of flux with that goalie situation and some of the top programs and top netminders. Now, when we talk about tops in 2013, who are some of the top players in women's lacrosse?
Yeah, I think going into the season, you would have picked out your typical usual suspects. And while those players I think have stood out, I do think there are some other players that maybe we weren't expecting who could be in that Player of the Year watch type of category. The first one being Taryn Van Thoff at Loyola, who has been lights out on the draw control for them, and really a workhorse through the midfield. Has done a ton with their offense, leading them in scoring right now. Had torn her ACL, missed all of last season, and they're definitely happy to have her back. Another one, Alyssa Leonard from Northwestern, who has always been huge on the draw control for them. She's tallied 37 so far on the season, and it's still February, which is pretty impressive. But she's also taken on a much larger role with their offense. She's leading them in scoring right now, actually, and has already surpassed her points and goals total from last season. So I think you'll expect to see more from her throughout the season as well. And another one, I think Shannon Gilroy at Florida. Florida's one of those teams where sometimes I think it's hard to pick one player who is the standout for them because they're so deep and balanced and have a lot of threats all over the field. But she's that versatile player who can score goals, who can win draw controls, get possession for them, and could be in the discussion at the end of the year as well.
So no surprise, you've got Loyola, Northwestern, Florida represented there. No surprise that they were among the top teams that you mentioned as well. So the top teams, top players, we talked about biggest surprises. Stick with us throughout the 2013 women's lacrosse season at the Division I level. We'll continue with the IL Women updates. In the meantime, Danielle Bernstein, you can see her at IL Women on Twitter as well as at Danny Bernstein.
Yep, that's right.
So you want to get a hold of Danielle and share some thoughts, some insight on the women's lacrosse season, feel free to reach out.